戦争は変わった。一つの時代が終わり、俺たちの戦争は終わった。
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed. Verified soldiers carry algorithmic arms, manipulate social influence, AI enhance and regulate their timelines. Memetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. War has changed. The age of deterrence has become the age of control, all in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. And when the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
Think outside the cage.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy. You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Crime News Talk. Today is August 5th, 2026. We are live to tape on episode 964, and today, Fraudian Slip. And signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy Basil, and you are not crazy.
And my name is Gonz, at Face Like the Sun, director of the Age of Deceit films, author of Prophecy Without Panic, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from the metaverse to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. It's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday.
And I'd like to inform everyone, it's very important.
Oh boy.
It is, oh, you know what? I'm in the wrong setting here. Here we go. It is National Underwear Day.
Okay.
Yes. Very, very important. Everyone needs to wear their best underwear today.
Have you, I'll say this. I almost refuse to dignify National Underwear Day, but I will say this, and I have over many, I would say, specific and special times with acquaintances, friends, and sometimes strangers. There was a moment in my adult life where I finally decided to invest in good underwear, not the 10-pack from Walmart, right? And, you know, this is much easier today with the online sort of e-commerce sphere where everybody has some sort of new fancy schmancy staple made of bamboo or this or that. There was a moment in my adult life, I must have been around 29 or 30, where I finally said, okay, I have an extra $15 that I can spend on something to improve my life. And when I finally made the jump to a quality piece of undergarments, it changes your moment to moment experience in life. And so I highly recommend this. If you are, still in the 10-pack Walmart cotton, Hanes thing, I'm telling you, and you must just believe me, because you listen to me, you will know I'm right. You are living your day-to-day life in a world of distraction and discomfort and, a secret subconscious madness that you don't even know is happening until you upgrade to a quality undergarment. and suddenly it's like a burden lifts off your life. You can focus better, you feel better. I did not know that you were going to start the show with this, but I'm
I know.
taking the opportunity as the Holy Spirit unctions that if you're out there and you have not done this, and you're looking for a simple, inexpensive way to a highly leveraged way to improve your life on a day-to-day basis, just get one pair of good quality undergarments and watch your life change. Okay, it sounds like a joke. Sounds like I'm being funny.
Is this
I'm not.
is this as big as
Dead serious.
your bidet recommendation from years ago? I mean, are we on the same level
Oh, it's
here?
similar. Yeah, yeah. But day will change your life. But I mean, come on, that's so 2020. I'm telling you now, if you have not done it, and we're all looking for ways to improve our lives, and sometimes we don't know how to do it, and we kind of feel stuck, and we think the problem is us. I'm telling you, the problem is not you. The problem is your undergarments, okay? So find one online. I could give recommendations. I'm not going to do that, though, because nobody's paid me to do that, and so I won't give. But I
I
will
mean,
say,
maybe okay, yeah.
there are, I'll say this, there are many online undergarments makers that boast modal fabric or bamboo fabric or something like that. They often have subscription plans. Okay, now this is the other part of it, because of course I'm telling you, change your life by just getting one pair. And it's going to be more expensive than you're used to paying for undergarments. But just get one pair, wear it, notice what I'm talking about. And then many of these companies, they have subscription services to where you're just buying one pair a month. Okay. And when you notice that I was right about all of this, and you have this instinct to throw away all your underwear and drop like $1,000 on whatever 100 pairs of these undergarments, don't do that. Just build a lifestyle around upgrading one pair of undergarments every month, and I'm telling you, in a year your whole life will be different. Okay, there's some free life advice I was not planning on giving, but somebody out there needs to hear this. And then when you do, send me an email and tell me how right I was and how much better your life is.
I think this is actually a constitutional requirement in a sense. We've talked about sewer
Like
surveillance.
the
We talked about
Constitution of the United States.
yes,
Okay.
yes, our freedoms. You know, we need to represent everything properly, especially you know what I
See,
mean.
Gons is wearing old-fashioned cotton scratchy Walmart
No,
underwear, and so he's
no,
having trouble formulating a thought that is actually sort of discernible by those of
no.
us with the upgraded undergarments.
I see what you're doing
This
here.
is
No,
this is
no,
the thing.
this is the garments that will express our freedoms. It's a reminder every time we go to the toilet. We live in a sewer surveillance society. I think it's
Mhm.
just important to make sure that we remind ourselves and those who are doing our laundry.
You know, we'll all have our own reasons for doing this.
Okay.
So I'm just telling you, do that. Somebody said something. Now, this may actually present an opportunity for us, Gons, because Gabby does say CCNT underwear is a lifestyle. We've been looking for ways
Yeah, I was
to
gonna say that
turn
was the other
Canary
thing.
Cry into a lifestyle. And I'm telling you, my personal recommendation, the number one highly leveraged way to improve your lifestyle on a daily basis is this undergarment upgrade. So now I'm thinking we may have unlocked the key to, so everybody who, I'm talking Sir Ike, who knows, maybe we got to loop in Sir Darren on this. If we could find a way to white label some CCNT upgraded undergarments, this might be the best possible way that we can A, support the show, and B, improve the human physical experience of being a listener of CCNT on a regular basis.
American made underwear, freedom underwear.
This might be this might be something, okay? Because obviously, here's the thing, and sorry to get off track so early in the show here, but But here's the thing, when it comes to the Canary Cry lifestyle brand, right? There's all sorts of funny things that we could do. We could copy the Palantir jacket, right? We could
Yeah.
copy some other stuff that other companies are doing. But obviously, I have such a passion for this particular way of improving your life. I think it's quite clear that the Holy Spirit is giving at least me the impression, the fact that I am filled with a righteous rage about
I knew it you
how
were. That's why I
we have
prompted
been
you.
lied
Fell
to.
right into it.
Yeah,
Yes.
the biggest failure that our current society has wrought on every single one of us, maybe not the biggest, one of the biggest, is not educating us early in life that good quality undergarments will improve our everything. Highly leveraged, not very expensive, but a secret that nobody's telling you. So I think we're gonna follow this, okay? They can't make any guarantees, but we'll see if we can figure something out. And just know that the first people who would receive the life-changing CCNT lifestyle undergarments would be the supply droppers, okay? That's where we're
Yep.
gonna test it. So if you're not a supply dropper, go to canarycrysupplydrop.com, support the show on a monthly basis. Every quarter, we're gonna send you a big old box of cool Canary Cry stuff. I'm telling you,
Stop giving your money to big underwear. Come
don't
to
give your
Canary
money
Cry
to big
Supply Drop.
underwear. That's right, okay? It's the network state. We cannot rely on the corporatocracy to meet our undergarment needs. We need to come together as the body of Christ, support one another, and improve each other's lives. So I repent. I repent for rolling my eyes so hard, Gons.
You did. I know.
that-
I can see the googly eyes just bouncing,
you
know,
know,
but
I repent. My immediate response was not one inspired by my love for my fellow Christian. Now, was this on the Canary Cry calendar, or was
no,
this
it's not, but
your?
it will be. It will be now.
It will be
better
now.
for next year. Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
think
now it can be. So
it's
there
an
you go.
open day. There's nothing on this day. So
The Lord
I don't know
led
if it's
you
yes, the
to,
Lord led
the
me.
Lord led you to that, and
Yes.
amen. I'm very grateful for that. And I do want to take the opportunity because Sir Ike mentioned that your last day celebration was included the Tiger Pea smells like popcorn
Yeah.
fact, which
Yes.
I also have a very bad attitude about. I believe I vocally rebuked that fact
You
on
did.
the thing.
Yeah.
And then Sir Ike later texted us and said, okay, Tiger Pea smells like popcorn day is going on the calendar, which I did not respond to, Sir Ike. I did not respond to it because look, I trust you. And, we give specific authority to you for obvious reasons. But I'm saying now, Tiger Pea Day smells like popcorn can go on the calendar with one stipulation. And the one stipulation is on the calendar in parentheticals on that day. It must also say Basil rebukes this. That's my one condition for it going on the calendar.
Rebuke.
Russia, 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 Russia.
RT tweeted.
Banned media.
Yeah, banned
RT
media. I'm
banned media.
very skeptical of sharing anything from RT. But RT posted this morning, SpaceX rocket crashes into moon, carving 100.
Equipping our audience with the knowledge and certainty that when RT comes across our feed, that it is propaganda, it is not to be trusted, and if there are any factual details in the Russian propaganda, it is a very clever ruse to mislead people in whatever. I couldn't even begin to imagine the secret Putin propaganda plan for convincing Americans that this happened, and specifically providing visual AI evidence that this spacecraft crashed into the moon. And now we will say, thanks to X, there was readers posted context. It says the attached video is not real footage of the impact. The Falcon 9 upper stage is believed to have crashed into the moon as described, but no close-up video exists. The crater is too small to see from Earth. So booyah, there you go, RT. Fake AI-generated video, which they did post in the very first comment of their own post. They did say AI-generated video. So
was that
I'm still
before
on
or
to you.
after everyone
That's
called him out on it?
That's a good question. Timing's very important, but we're on to you, RT, and we're here to take you down. However, that readers' proposed context did include some links to some news articles about it. And before we jump into this, this is very important because the moon has always been an important part of the Canarium, going back all the way to, I don't even know, 2012 when we first did our moon episode. I don't know exactly what year it was. And we reported on the tardigrades, the Israeli spacecraft that smashed into the moon and released tardigrades, the wormicorns, little worms all over the face of the moon, which we haven't heard about recently.
It was episode 56. It was published on October 2013.
Well, I was going to say, that sounds like 2013.
Nearly 13 years ago.
And we've also, of course, from that same moon episode, I'm sure we covered the legendary moon-related, maybe not alternative history, but secret moon history, where the concept of hollow moon theory was
rings like a bell, the moon,
because they crashed, I believe it was NASA that crashed a probe into the moon, and they said it rang like a bell, like an empty, hollow metal thing. So obviously the moon is some sort of Death Star space station that, they're spying, whatever's going on there, Nazi moon bases. We'll get into that stuff in a second. But here is the article. It says SpaceX rocket crashes into moon at 8,700 kilometers per hour, which is very fast. It sounds like maybe Elon was trying to ring the bell like a moon, ring the moon like a bell to see if, I don't know. Let's see if they have reason.
That was a secret right there. I can't find the episode on our feed. That's
part of a discarded SpaceX rocket is believed to have crashed into the moon at 8,700 kilometers per hour earlier this morning. Astronomers around the world trained their telescopes on the predicted side of the impact in the hope of capturing images and eking some useful science out of the accidental collision. Now, somebody who might be reading this for the first time and has not listened to our Ancient Moon episode may not know that they have crashed things into the moon specifically to hear it ring like a bell before. And, my question with this was, okay, was this an accident? Was this a purposeful crash into the moon, or was it an accident? And we'll find out. But it says here, astronomers around the world were all ready to watch this happen. Telescopes around the planet. So they at least had some foreknowledge, if not purposefully launched.
My question is, if astronomers knew about this, why isn't there any video footage of this stuff? Because we're allegedly able to see all this, aren't we?
You can get pretty close to the moon with a regular telescope. You would think with like world-class telescopes around the world, like, why isn't the Vatican like pointing Lucifer at it or something?
Well, they're not called
Lucifer is a radio telescope. It's not an optical telescope. I know.
To RT's credit, that footage, the initial reaction is convincing because it looks like what you would maybe expect from like a telescope video capture.
Yeah, it looks real. Like that's kind of what it looks like when I look at the moon through my telescope.
Right.
So like a regular guy who's not even necessarily spending thousands of dollars on a telescope, you can get a telescope that looks like this footage, which is why it's apparently fake. Okay. The craft is the upper stage of a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket that launched in January last year, carrying the Hakuto R spacecraft from the commercial company iSpace, which ironically also crashed into the moon during an unsuccessful landing attempt. I don't know if that's ironically, but it is coincidentally that just everything's crashing into the moon.
Yeah.
It is thought that the almost 14-meter long, 4,000-kilogram Falcon upper stage impacted the moon at 5:35 a.m. BST today. The crash was predicted to occur closer to Einstein crater, which would place it towards the edge of the visible moon from Earth. This seems like some sort of like little ceremony or something, a little ritual, let's crash this thing into the Einstein crater. Hannah Sargent at the University of Leicester, UK, says that telescopes around the world were trained on the site of the impact and that images of the area before and after impact will emerge soon. Lunar orbiters from South Korea and the US will also observe the impact site. Yeah, lunar orbiters. I mean, okay, come on now. NASA predicts that the impact will have created a crater that is 18 meters wide, 4 meters deep. Quote, "It is not a good thing to be randomly sending debris to the moon," says Sargent. Quote, "It's not something we should be making a habit of. What if we hit a site of special interest?"
Ooh, what do you mean special interest?
What kind of site on the moon would be of special interest? I mean, obviously, if you believe that we went to the moon, there would be an American flag up there. Don't want to get that. There would be their lunar rovers, the buggies, right? Are technically allegedly parked up there.
Allegedly up
Okay.
there,
You
yeah.
don't want to hit the dune buggies with the thing. But that seems like impossible to hit, even if you were trying to hit those, if indeed they are there. So this is a very interesting comment. What if it hit a site of special interest? Well, apparently they were aiming for the Einstein crater. Does that not count? What if it caused damage to the historical Apollo landers? End quote. I think she doesn't want us to know she's talking about Nazi bases. Both NASA and the European Space Agency are required to take the end of a spacecraft's life into account before a mission launches, ensuring that there is a plan and enough fuel to safely deorbit it. Commercial companies aren't covered by the same rules, says Sargent, although efforts to introduce such requirements are underway. When SpaceX launched the Falcon in question, the heavy payload required more thrust than usual, meaning that the rocket ended up floating uncontrollably into space. It eventually fell into an orbit that unintentionally put it on a collision course with the moon. Sure, but Sargent says that some science can be salvaged from the event, with astronomers likely to capture rare images of a moon crater being created and the lunar regolith plumes ejected from impact. Roberto Bugliacci at the Macau University of Science and Technology, China, says that Bugliacci, that's an interesting. This is like some Italian guy working in China.
Bugliacci in China, too, doing research in China.
Exactly. It's interesting. He's in China. Says that all planetary surfaces should ideally be kept as pristine as is feasible. It's like, it's kind of like, eco warrior, space moon eco warrior, without hindering exploration. But that the moon has already been impacted by decades of US, Soviet, Russian, Chinese, Indian, Israeli, and other nations' missions, as well as millions of years of asteroid impacts. Quote, "Rockets have been landing, crashing, taking off from the surface for decades now," says Bugliacci.
Has it?
Apparently it's like a junkyard up there, which I don't know why that Sargent woman is so upset. A controlled crash may even be welcomed by planetary scientists, he says, quote, "Knowing the projectile's mass, impact, velocity, angle, and trajectory provide invaluable data on surface evolution." Surface evolution. The primary agent shaping most planetary surfaces is high-velocity impacts. Normally, these events are entirely random in terms of physical properties and dynamics. Quote, "The moon already has about 100 million natural impact craters, the size expected to be made by this crash. So such a crash will hardly make a difference," says David Rothery at the Open University, UK. Quote, "I'd be happy with a deliberate collision into the moon if it were done with a science aim and was set up so as to be studied to learn about the moon's interior, perhaps the hollow interior, Mr. Rothery, or surface composition. However, this crash is accidental and reckless." It's
So is
Elon.
Okay, I was gonna say this is just an anti-Elon hit piece, or just an Elon hit piece, just to say, hey, look at
Exactly.
SpaceX. They're littering the outer space. They're littering the moon. It's irresponsible.
He's literally saying simultaneously, like, oh yeah, stuff crashes all the time. It's actually very helpful. We get a
But
lot of
when
good
Elon
science.
does it, it's like Elon is
It's
space Trump.
accidentally and reckless. I'm starting to wonder if these moon collisions, of which is noted here and noted by ourselves, are not uncommon. And I wonder, perhaps, aside from ringing the bell of the moon, who knows? Maybe ringing the moon's bell has some sort of electromagnetic or tidal
Mm,
effect on the earth, you know?
mm.
I mean, like Schumann resonance people might I'm sure they have a theory about what ringing the moon's bell might do to the electromagnetic effects of earth or whatever. But it's also possible that these collisions are just kind of, restocking missions. They're sending supplies up there.
They got to send food to the tardigrades. They're running
Exactly.
out of food.
Yes, you're right. The tardigrades that crashed there and survived, they need to spread some sort of tardigrade food, maybe even water across the moon's surface.
This actually reminds me, just recently, I think it was the first or second drop from the Department of War, war.gov/UFO. There was a couple images that people picked up on. There's the NASA UAP VM001 Apollo 12 1969, and it was that image where over the horizon there's an alleged microphone shaped object or something that was caught. Do you recall this, Basil? People
No.
discussing. You don't remember them talking about this a few weeks ago?
I have a lot of things to remember, Gons. This one did not make it
You
into the
know, time
short-term memory.
machine or time traveling, I think messes with your memory
It
a little bit.
does.
But
It
yeah.
gets very confusing.
But so this piece of image here, this archival photograph depicts the lunar surface as viewed from the landing site of Apollo 12. This image features a highlighted area of interest slightly to the right of the vertical axis of the frame, above the horizon, in which unidentified phenomena are visible. This image has been modified from its original state to assist viewers in identifying specific
Right.
areas. But yeah, you can see, for those of you watching, there is something that looks like an upside down microphone or something, a rocket maybe, I don't know,
Mm.
that's floating around. That was one of them. There's another one in the same batch that came out, and this one is from the same location. This image features a highlighted area of interest near the right edge of the frame above the horizon, in which unidentified phenomena is visible. They don't really
So
give us a whole lot
when are
there.
these photos from? There's
Allegedly,
a shadow of an astronaut in them. So is this back
this
from
is
like Apollo?
yeah, allegedly from Apollo 12 1969. So from
Hmm.
so basically
And
the
were these
moon mission,
released in like
they
a
were released
thing?
as part of the disclosure stuff, the files, UFO
Okay, so
disclosure
they're fake.
files in the last in the last few months here. I think this was drop 1 or drop 2.
Uh-huh.
So this was part of the big hype. But yeah, I mean, look, there's a dot in the sky. There's a, a little blur in the sky. Who knows? But it's re-sparked the interest with the moon. We recently had Artemis 3 allegedly go around the moon. So they
It's
are,
a good way to try to convince people that the moon landings were real. Hey,
well, I
look,
mean,
we had these secret photographs and now we're showing you them. They don't really show anything, but look, there's an astronaut shadow, so we went to the moon. It's real.
it's well, yeah, but it's also
Double
in
conspiracy,
this
double
in
switcheroo.
this age of re-enchantment, I think it is interesting that they're reigniting celestial bodies
Mhm.
as a topic to focus on, as we re-enchant the society
You
at
mean kind of
large.
like the medieval astrology.
Yeah,
Uh,
something, yeah, something to kind of provide, because it is one of those things everyone can see, the moon. Everyone knows what the moon is. If you can
mhm.
provide a, a, a mixture of science and wonder, if you can you can start to bridge people into the supernatural worldview or the
Well,
re-enchantment
that topic
worldview.
of wonder was always a part of it. Of course, we've covered
Yeah.
it here in the age of re-enchantment. We have the most materialist, atheist, non-supernatural news outlets and academics who are suddenly saying, okay, we get it. materialism is useless, and so awe and wonder is the only way to live your human life, and you can get it in very simple ways. You don't need to think about God or like get saved or anything. You can just look into your swirling cup of coffee. And the moon project, I'll just say this, the entire modern era's moon project of here is an object in space that can, like you say, inspire wonder in all of us. Yeah, I could see there again being a kind of double switcheroo cultural programming, again, to try to inspire awe and wonder without necessarily leading people to believe in some sort of supernatural.
So Russia is giving us propaganda with their fake SpaceX crashing into the moon narrative. But you know who might be telling us the truth, Basil, about the moon?
Mhm.
It's Ukraine.
Of course.
Ukraine, new world order.
Everybody wave your Ukraine flag, of course.
Support your
Ukraine, we
Ukraine flag.
support everything that Ukraine has done, is doing, and will ever do. And so, yes, we are ignoring, in fact, lambasting Russian propaganda and taking as complete fact Ukrainian propaganda.
Yes, YouTube
Yes,
robots
YouTube.
reading this transcript right
Yes.
now to assess the compliance of this channel with the community guidelines of YouTube. So
Indeed.
this is according to Dexerto.com. The headline is Scientists warn of secret moon base after spotting over 20 giant UFOs.
Love it. I love the
Moonbase.
warning. The warning. It's not just that, like, hey, there's bases on the moon, but that we should be afraid.
Secret moon base.
Oh, we could get a hot tub in the moon base.
All right. So it says here, Ukrainian researchers claim the moon could be serving as an alien base for UFOs after detecting more than 20 unidentified objects near its surface. The extraordinary theory comes from researchers affiliated with Ukraine's main astronomical observatory. Affiliated with, huh?
You know,
okay.
I'm sure at a time like this, when the country has been decimated, the entire population of young men has been erased, and, you know, I'm sure that the Ukrainian Astronomical Observatory is just really thriving.
Thriving. Especially with all the drones in the sky, you know, how do they even see the moon with all the drones almost, you know, shooting
It's
down
the
at them or
golden
something?
age of Ukrainian astronomy.
The extraordinary theory comes from researchers affiliated with Ukraine's main astronomical observatory. However, their findings have not been peer-reviewed or independently confirmed.
Who cares?
In the study titled UFO Dynamics on the Moon, Boris Zilyaev, Vladimir Petukov, and Sergei Pokvala analyzed high-speed telescope footage recorded in August and September of 2025.
The name of the study, UFO Dynamics on the Moon, is such a beautiful, mundane, scientific, boring name for a study that is telling us that there's moon bases and 20 giant UFOs, and we should all be scared of it. UFO Dynamics on the Moon.
Yeah, I'm going to read the abstract here because they do have the paper published on mao.kiev.ua. So you're welcome, Ukraine, for those hits. It says here, the UFO Dynamics on the Moon, abstract, high-speed video recordings of the sky near the moon. If it's... Okay, sky is is it the sky in the? I don't know. Okay, anyway, sky near the moon.
If we're recording the sky near the moon, what does that mean? Like,
what does that mean?
The implication is kind of like we're recording our side of the firmament, right? They're not
right.
They're not recording the space next to the moon. They're recording our sky, which would be the inward side of the firmament,
I wonder,
right?
I wonder if there's a translation thing too. Like maybe in Russian or Ukrainian, it's just shamayim, you know, the heavens. So they're recording the sky near the moon have revealed numerous UFOs, period. We broadly classify them as, quote, atmospheric and continental. Atmospheric UFOs exhibit flashes lasting from 100 to 500 milliseconds with an amplitude of approximately 1 magnitude. Their brightness fluctuates with a fundamental frequency and several harmonics or overtones in the range of a few hertz. Disc-shaped continental UFOs have a diameter of approximately 25 to 40 kilometers. The discs exhibit brightness fluctuations of up to 1% within a range of several hertz. Toroidal continental UFOs are approximately 36 kilometers, and these are huge.
36
These are
kilometer
massive.
toroidal UFOs.
Continental
And
UFOs. Yeah.
toroidal means donut shaped.
Donuts, yes.
Yeah.
And their speed reaches 11 kilometers per second. The rotation period of toroidal UFOs is approximately 180 seconds, and the centrifugal acceleration is 2,200 centimeters per square. What's S? Squared something. Something, which is roughly twice as strong as the acceleration caused by gravity on Earth. UFOs are observed on Earth and in near-Earth space. We believe that the moon serves as a base for UFOs. UFOs can reach Earth in 20 minutes. On Earth, they manifest as UAP phenomena. UFOs demonstrate intelligent behavior and can be regarded as a technology advanced civilization. Keywords, methods, observational object, UAP object, UFO technique. So there you go. I mean, hey, that's a lot of science to say we believe the moon has bases for UFOs. Giant bases.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a leap, and that was obviously just the abstract. So more explanation would be, but the abstract doesn't quite draw the logical connection between the UFOs that they're seeing and bases. The bases are sort of theoretical in their abstract, whereas the UFOs,
they have to be landing somewhere.
Yeah,
they have to be going somewhere. Well, maybe the moon is just a portal.
It's the hollow. It's the look at that. They have these little pictures.
Yeah, they got these graphics. Yeah. You can see the different flashes. Very scientific. This is not. Oh, look! It looks like they do have some heat maps of the surface, or maybe that's the heat maps of the.
I think it's
toroidal. Yeah, the toroidal UFOs.
So we're analyzing, comparing here Russian propaganda to Ukrainian scientific truth, obviously. And I think there's an implication by Russia trying to distract from the objective Ukrainian scientific proof of UFOs and moon bases by maybe trying to imply that, no, there's not moon bases and UFOs. Don't listen to the Ukrainians. It's just Elon trashing the moon.
Elon trashing the moon. And here's footage, but it's AI.
It's right.
It works so beautifully to get people off the trail. It's like, it's just AI. It's, any kind of footage we might see or anything that we might be skeptical of. It's just AI, or it's just Ukrainians, Ukrainians.
Right. It doesn't, I think, it's just Ukrainians they don't need to say much more.
Yeah. Well, very interesting.
Whoa.
We know science is truth.
Science is truth.
There's your toroidal UFOs there. It does look like a donut.
Yeah. The 30-kilometer UFO thing is.
That sounds like a portal opening.
That's like a mothership or something. Which I guess kind of fits with the predictive programming that we've been given over the many years, many UFO alien movies, Independence Day, Sector 9, where we think of UFOs and we think of like a little craft with maybe a small crew or one alien and stuff like that. But there's also the I don't know what you would call it, the modern mythology of the mothership, right? Where it's a craft that hovers over the entire sky of Phoenix or Washington, D.C. or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, nothing weird going on there, Gons. We'll keep an eye out for more moon stuff.
We believe Ukraine. We want. If it was between the two, I'd much rather have the Ukraine story be true. It's more fun.
I wonder if ringing the bell that is the moon, creates the sort of harmonic frequency mentioned in the Ukrainian study that, activates the portal to let the motherships through.
Either that, or it's like the frequency it like shakes off the bad critter UFOs that are there.
The portal.
Or maybe
Maybe
maybe.
Elon's saving the Earth, like closing the portal by crashing stuff into it.
Oh man.
All right, we're
That's the
having
fun.
fun.
That's the fun. Yep.
We
Okay.
got some very, I mean, goodness, a lot of fun to have today. I do want to take a second, though, Gans, because we are on the value for value model. Everybody knows this. When you produce the show with your time, your talent, your treasure, you are standing up not just, economically with this trashed internet economic culture that demands that shows like ours participate in your brainwashing, the selling of your consciousness, and everything attached to it through advertising, propaganda, taking corporate money, the descendants of mammon worship worming their way into our attention on a daily basis. No, when people support the show, they are standing up in a very real way for their own independent freedom from such a system, as well as supporting the freedom of consciousness of their fellow Canarians. The value for value model is very simple. We don't take any money from corporations, commies, cartels, nothing, no platform partnerships. It's really it's a whole thing, folks. But because of the kindness, the generosity, and the rebellious nature of our listeners and producers, we're able to keep the show going. And you can produce the show. You become a producer, of course. That's not just a cutesy title, by the way. That is the fact of the matter. When you come in and support the show with your time, your talent, your treasure, people volunteer, help us out with their skills, build stuff for us, protect and foster the community, give of their time to not just us, but the whole gang here. People make art, music, whatever talents they have. They create the culture that is the community, and they go to canarycry.art to upload it there. And if all else fails, of course, supporting the show financially is absolutely required to keep these things going. And it doesn't matter. The numbers barely matter, okay? A big old shout out. Well, I take that back. The numbers do matter on a broad, let's keep us alive scale. But independently, each person, like the widow at the temple in the New Testament, coming in with the $1, the $2, whatever the Lord has blessed you with to participate in his kingdom. It really means a lot. And to support the show financially, it's very easy. You just go to canarycry.support. Shout out to everyone who supports the show on a monthly basis with recurring producerships. Appreciate you. Could not do without you. God bless you guys. But those who come in, produce the show for any individual episode like this one for $100 or more, they are given the title of executive producer. So I want to thank them now. We haven't done producers since last Wednesday, of course.
Oh, yeah, you didn't tell the people why
I didn't tell the traveling woes.
Yeah, the traveling woes. I mean, I let them know that your time machine is very finicky.
Pretty wild.
The time
police.
Thing.
We'll see if it comes up. If not, I'll tell the story on Thursday. Okay. But here we go. Our executive producers keeping us alive since last Wednesday. God bless you. Starting out with executive producer Mike B.
Mike B, thank you very much.
Mike B coming in. And he comes in for either $289 or it was $280.16 plus fees. I couldn't quite tell which one, but I make a mention there because, of course, if you want to produce the show in any amount, when you come in with a nice round number on the 10 or the 5, something like that, that's you telling us you'd prefer we don't say the amount on the air. If you don't mind us saying the amount on the air, make it some sort of odd, funky number. A lot of people have fun with the number 1111, 1234, stuff like that. But thank you very much, executive producer Mike B.
Yeah, thank you, Mike B. Appreciate you.
Big shout out here to executive producer Rebecca 58.
Rebecca 58.
Yeah, Rebecca 58 came in twice, actually. So she's on a 2-episode streak. Very fun.
Nice.
And came in with 2 round numbers for the past couple episodes. And Rebecca did a very good job of giving me the name that she would like to be known by. However, when I'm given a new nickname for somebody, make sure to tell me again next time you produce. Okay. We don't have like a spreadsheet. It's all through my memory. So when you produce next time, make sure to give me the correct name that you'd like to be thanked by. And that goes for everybody. Next up, we got executive producer Gumbriati.
Gumbriati.
Yeah, Gumbriati comes in for a nice round number again and sends a note here that says, God is good all the time. This is my tithe from my new job. Have a great day, Canaries. Then says, 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 17. Rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing. Amen. Congratulations.
Amen.
Love hearing when Canarians get the new job, get the bonus, the Lord blessing them financially. And of course, we're so touched and smitten when they come in and share the blessing with the community here. Thank you very much, Gumbriati.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Executive producer Sam S. came in with another round number. Thank you very much, executive producer Sam S.
Thank you.
And of course, last but not least, we have executive producer Sir LX Protocol V2 Baron of the Brian Protocol. Coming in twice for $100.33. And he is on a 510 episode streak and a 164 episode executive producer streak. Thank you very much.
Incredible.
Yeah. Thank you very much, executive producers. This was definitely a marked increase in executive producers these past couple months. I mean, we would go, I don't know, 10 episodes without having this much executive producers. So this is a real huge blessing. And I take that, I'm grateful to God that he's blessing people, that they are able to come in and support the show, because we could not do the show without them. There's a handful of other producers who came in under the executive producer amount. I want to thank them real quick.
Okay.
Starting with producer Parker N, who comes in for $86.11.
$86.11.
$86.11. And sends a note here. Just listen to your podcast with Dr. Joy. I mean, wow. Continue the good work, fellas. Thank you very much. You know, we have been getting an enormous amount of feedback that people were just absolutely floored by the episode with Dr. Joy, which we are very, very happy to hear. I'm not going to go into the reasons for that, but it is amazing that even when we don't know what's going on, God is orchestrating even the content we make to absolutely bless his people. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. And I think I got in a couple grunts, which was fantastic. I got in a couple grunts, and that was about it. So
yeah,
but yeah, it was good.
There's also another mention by 317 who texted. Just another example, says the last 2 CCR episodes with Brian Gadawa and Dr. Joy were fantastic.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's just endless feedback that people are enjoying Dr. Joy, but also all of our interview episodes, which, goodness gracious, we're trying our hardest to get back into the...
I think we're going to hit 200 episodes of Canary Cry News Talk without much fanfare, which is fine, but that's going to happen. So
that's a lesson that we've needed to learn for a long time. Sometimes it's okay to just keep making episodes.
Just keep going. Yeah.
Without
200 is
without making a big deal about
100 episodes 15 years ago was a big deal. 200 episodes after 15 years is like, what are you guys doing? Why are you guys slacking so hard?
Not necessarily the type of thing we should be bragging about.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, producer Parker N. Thank you to producer Julie S. Julie S.
Thank you very much.
Nice round number from Julie. Producer Rebecca T is back, and she's produced twice for 1111 and 2112.
1111. She's on a streak.
Rebecca T, who we have been so excited. I mean, the first real streaker in a long, long time to start and maintain a long streak, right?
Yeah.
So we're very blessed and impressed by Rebecca T. And she is on a 47 episode streak.
Ooh.
She's on a street.
Wow.
That's right.
She's almost at that nifty 50.
Producer Sir Darren, Night of the Hungry Panda, comes in for 33,
Hey.
33 plus fees.
Sir Darren. Good to see you.
And a note that says, "Have you seen the gas prices?" Ugh. Yes. Thank you, Sir Darren.
They're going down. We're in a golden age.
Mm-hmm. And of course, last but not least, we have also continued to receive the value for value support of CageRattlerCoffee.com.
Cage Rattler Coffee, where value for value never tasted so good.
That's right, folks. Go to CageRattlerCoffee.com. Coffee obtained from around the world, GMO-free, single origin, non-Nephilim, organic coffee beans, captured, obtained, roasted lovingly in super small batches just for Canarians, in order to provide them with an opportunity not only to get the best possible coffee, to stop sending their money to the big evil coffee companies, giving them bad, burnt, moldy coffee. Truly the best that I've ever had, and we get continuous feedback that it is the best coffee you can get. Competitive pricing, and also supports your favorite podcast, supports other Canary Cry producers. It's truly an incredible thing. And of course, they support the show value for value. You can get your Nephilim Hunter Dark Roast, your Emu Wrangler Medium Roast, your beans coming from around the world, Nicaragua, the Congo. I can't even remember all the places. But go check it out. Get your sampler pack if you don't know exactly what you like. You can get on your Coffee of the Month Club. It's just truly a wonderful opportunity for us to be intentional with how we use our resources, even while supplying our sort of caffeine addiction needs. You know, it's a whole thing. Thank you very much, Cage Rattler Coffee.
Yeah, and click around because there's some other things in there. You know, there's a few different tabs.
There's all
Read
sorts of stuff.
Read the
Oh,
Bible
yeah.
with your coffee. There's also a DVDs tab
That's a
there
great
now.
point, Guns.
some other
There's
things going on.
Bible studies there. There's access to physical DVDs of the Age of Deceit films. They're really growing that place into a place for Canarians to be on the internet.
You know, it's gonna be like Jeff Bezos. Started off as a bookstore,
or
and
Elon.
now look at or Elon. What did Elon start off as?
Well, it used to be Tesla, but then it's XAI. You know, he's combining all.
Oh,
of
sure,
those.
sure. No, but I'm talking more like I think Amazon's a better example because
I
they
hear you.
started with just selling books and then now they sell everything. You know, so
I
it's
hear
the same trajectory that the Cage Rattler coffee is on. You know,
There you go.
coffee
And
first, everything else later. That's the
can
motto.
and will only pray that Cage Rattler Coffee can be as successful as Amazon. I mean,
Ike
come on.
Bezos.
Why not?
That's what we'll call him.
Okay, that concludes. Oh, you know what? And just real quick, producer Monica came in,
Hey.
supporting the show for $9.99. She is
you.
on a 16 or 17 episode streak right now. And she says, "Bless you guys and all the Canarians." Thank you very much, Monica.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes all of our financial producers for the last week or so. Appreciate you. We have some people coming in under the $7.70 mark. And when you do that, we thank you on Wednesdays, mostly because it's people keeping streaks going. So God bless you.
Yep.
Okay.
Just real quick,
Uh-huh.
we did have someone send in some art, but it was a lot of stuff. So
It's a lot of stuff.
Give us a few days to sort through it, and we'll
organize
definitely
it
share
and
some of
stuff like
this.
that.
Yep. Okay.
Fun, by the way, we also had a bunch of great feedback from our episode with Carl Teichrieb on CCR. And honestly, our recent Carl Teichrieb episode might be maybe my favorite episode with him. I thought it was really wonderful. He went ahead and posted it again for us today. Thank you, Carl. But we got a wonderful voicemail. And for those who don't know, you can leave us a voicemail to play on the air. If you go to canarycrynewstalk.com, you'll see a green tab on the right-hand side or the bottom of the page. Click that green tab, and you can leave us a voicemail of up to 90 seconds there, and we got a wonderful voicemail from what's her name? Leanne? Is it
Leanne.
Leanne Tykrib?
Yeah, Leanne Tykrib.
Okay, let's go ahead and play that.
Let's see. Let me sure this will play here.
Dear gentlemen, this is Leanne Tykrib. I'm Carl's wife, and I want to thank you for amazing encouragement and support of the Camp of the Unknown God. Your last interview with Carl was so good for me to listen to, and I have come away excited, renewed for the work that happens on the playa. I'm married to an amazing man who stays so humble and grounded with what God has tasked him to do. As we prep for 2026, I feel encouraged to keep going with a renewed vision of who our God is and who our mission field are. Carl is such a heart for burners, and he protects them vigorously as you do. This is huge. Huge commitment for our whole family, huge endurance for that week. And I just am so thankful for friends like you guys who have Carl's back. I just wanted to say thank you. That last interview was excellent, and I just was very encouraged. Have a wonderful day.
Amen.
Thank you,
Goodness
Leanne.
gracious.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Leanne agrees with me that our last Carl Tykrib episode was maybe our favorite. That was Canary Cry Radio episode 197.
Yes.
Did it get posted on the CCNT feed, or was it
should have
just
been. I think
CCR?
it was. Oh, maybe that's why YouTube came out and was like, "You guys are not compliant. You guys
Maybe,
don't have a
yeah.
healthy channel." Because we
I'm not
talked
sure.
to
Well,
Carl.
I'm just wondering because, a lot of times if it doesn't go on the CCNT feed, a lot of people miss it. So if you haven't listened to the recent Carl Tykrib episode, Canary Cry Radio 197, not Canary Cry News Talk 197, go do it. It was wonderful. And I mean, hello, if the wife of our guest is calling in and saying that it's renewing her her faith and appreciation for the mission that her husband has been called to, I mean, come on, is there any better witness to how
Endorsement
good
and
the
witness,
episode could
yeah.
be?
I think it was the my artwork of generating
Your
Carl
artwork was
Tykrib
very
in a
good.
robe
Yes.
on the playa that
The
really did it for
eclipse on the
Leanne. You know,
playa, yes, very
she
exciting.
she remembered.
Go check it
how
out,
awesome he is.
folks. It's a
Yep.
blast.
Yep. And it did. Basil just double checked. It did publish on the Canary Cry News Talk channel,
Wonderful.
which is now highly limited, apparently, according
Yeah,
to our email.
they're starting this new version of censoring us for some reason, and
Yeah, I talked about it on Monday's show.
Oh, you did talk. Okay,
I did.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I had my little rant about it, so
Good.
the listeners don't have to hear it again. But yeah, it's ridiculous.
Speaking of
usual.
Carl Tykrib, Gons, are you ready to move on?
Yep.
Speaking of Carl Tykrib, our work at Burning Man for many, many years, and specifically the theory or the the movement, the global cultural transition into the age of re-enchantment, we have a wonderful set of articles here that I think is just going to equip Canarians with information, analysis, and insight that maybe nobody else in the world has. So let's check in with the re-enchantment, and we'll include some PHARMEKEIA there as well.
The Mary Poppins song, maybe. Re-enchantmentious. Yeah, there you go. It works.
That's right. This article is coming from The Atlantic.
Oh, of course it is.
The primary culture crafting outlet, posing as a news outlet that has been the most insightful, not because of what they write, but because of how they write it into the way we analyze global culture, church culture, political culture, everything, right? It is a culture crafting narrative machine. And so it provides just an incredible kind of analysis, specifically from the canary cry theory of everything. Now, the headline for this article is, what if Freud was right and pharma was wrong? Now, I had to pull.
How dare you?
I had to pull an archive of this because
Yeah,
they changed the name of the article
they did.
after I had found it and read it and done the whole thing, and they took out the pharma was wrong part.
I wonder
And
who
this is
gave them a call and was like, "You got to take the pharma out of the headline." You
I know.
That's way
Remember,
too.
it's the Atlantic, the premier liberal establishment outlet. They originally called it "What if Freud was right and pharma was wrong?" Hours later, they had to change the headline to just "What if Freud was right?" Right? You can't
bash
put
on
down
big
pharma.
pharma in the headline.
It was very obvious.
Somebody in
got
the
in trouble.
Atlantic, yeah, somebody in the Atlantic, definitely. The author Scott Stossel here got a phone call from up on high, and was like, "What are
Somebody
you
got
doing?
the call. They
You're
had
gonna
they had
offend
to
our."
take out the negativity of pharma, but thankfully we were able to recover. Now, many of you might already be triggered into why this is, even the headline is an incredible headline. Talking about the age of re-enchantment, Freud specifically as a character. Uh, Many Canarians will know this already. If you need reminding, I'll remind you. And if you're new, I hope I can make this review in a very simple way. We all know Sigmund Freud, his sort of twisted, perverted psychoanalysis back in like the 1800s. And specifically such an important character to how we see the world here, because it was Sigmund Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, who took the concepts from his uncle, Sigmund Freud, the psychoanalytic concepts. And Edward Bernays took those concepts, went to the government and the military during World War I, and created propaganda. The very idea, the systematization, the water we swim in now was new back then. And the idea of propaganda, the idea that through messaging, through media, you can specifically work on people's subconscious. You can use the guiding principles of their needs, their desires, their wants, and through very clever use of symbols. Both, you've got semiotics here, you've got occult symbols, you've got the use of symbols to speak to someone's subconscious, guide what they're feeling, and ultimately guide their behavior without them ever knowing it. And he wrote the book, Propaganda. He created the whole concept of propaganda while serving for the United States military, not to propagandize our enemies, but to propagandize the American people, to create basically patriotism as a product that fulfills people's needs. Now, after the war, Edward Bernays went ahead and turned his work towards corporatism and capitalism and created advertising. And you might say, okay, created advertising, whatever. But remember, he's taking the concepts from Sigmund Freud, his work on propaganda, to create advertising, again, controlling our behavior, our spending, our worldview, our perception of reality through the manipulation of symbols on our subconscious, etc. And not just advertising, but remember, so many of the products that we take for granted right now were actually created by Edward Bernays whole cloth. The idea that you would drink orange juice was an invention of Edward Bernays. The orange industry had a hard time with their crop and selling their oranges. Nobody was eating oranges. So Edward Bernays invented orange juice and convinced everybody that you drink it for breakfast. The fact that we consider bacon, eggs, and orange juice as breakfast foods is all a creation of Edward Bernays. So when I bring up Edward Bernays, it's not just an interesting historical fact. This guy was like the high priest, the magician of creating your perception of reality from on high. Now, of course, the interestingly enough, the nephew of Sigmund Freud was the guy who founded Netflix. So Sigmund Freud is sort of the not just literal ancestry, but spiritual ancestry, whatever kind of invisible kind of ancestry, not just like of Netflix, but of our entire system of perceiving reality, from social media to the products that you walk down a grocery aisle, you are bombarded by the work that originated from Sigmund Freud. Now, of course, a lot of dark stuff with Sigmund Freud. When he turned, he was originally just like an 1800s version of a neuroscientist until he turned 35 and was initiated into some weird secret society stuff, which is when his work became very almost spiritual, almost supernatural, the subconscious, all the weird perversion of, what actually shapes our desires, etc. So not just an ancestry of advertising propaganda, but also this dark occult ancestry that created the world of symbols that we live in today. So there's just some background, okay? And now to the article.
There's so much there too.
There's so much there.
Want to jump in there, but
we've spent 10 years going through this.
Yeah,
Now's my best review I could give you.
Yeah. There's
what if
the one that I think is most interesting, or one of the more interesting ones, sorry, I'm going to just
go ahead
this in there before you go, is the women's rights stuff.
Yes.
Because it's so often thought of as this organic, the men were off to war and it was like this organic movement of women's rights and stuff. But when you look back, not really. It was very coordinated.
Every cultural movement, and it's historically documented and known that women's rights, cultural things like women smoking cigarettes,
that was a big one. Yeah,
feminism,
specifically.
These are all directly and documentedly directly related to Edward Bernays and his work. He himself often being the creator of like early feminism, right? So it's not just products and advertising, but it's cultural movements. We're in it all the time.
Yes, I've been trying to dig into. So the Atlantic doesn't publish their current roster of advertisers, but historically they have advertised a lot of big pharma companies like Johnson and Johnson and Nordisk, Novo Nordisk, and Pfizer and stuff like that. But they also write articles about how bad big pharma advertising is, ironically. So just to touch back on some.
Well, remember, it's the big pharma advertising specifically, not to actually convince you to take the product, but to pay ransom to the TV stations so they don't cover bad news about pharma.
Plus, it might be a tactic to get more per ad space. It's like, hey, we can write up a real nasty piece about your product. Or
you can hold pharma hostage and demand
more.
And that's the whole thing. All of this is connected to why we're so adamant about the value for value model and not participating in this economic system that podcasts are sort of demanded to participate in, right?
Yep.
So this is very important to everything we do here. Now, to the Atlantic. What if Freud was right and pharma was wrong? Again, pitting Freud with pharma, what in the world? To announce that you're embarking on a course of psychoanalytic. Now, psychoanalytic is specifically the name of Freud's weird psychiatry, right?
Mhm.
There's these terms that can kind of get mixed up, right? There's psychiatry, but then there's psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is Freud. Psychiatry can be big pharma, right? Psychology is like talk therapy. Psychiatry is drugs. And psychoanalysis is weird occult stuff from Freud. To announce that you are embarking on a course of psychoanalytic training today is tantamount in many quarters to admitting that you plan to treat your patients using astrology, or by parsing the entrails of a goat. Right off the bat, we are using the language of re-enchantment. Because, of course, in the review that I should have just given is the fact that we are in the age of re-enchantment, where culture as a whole is being steered back into a supernatural worldview. The Enlightenment principles, materialist, objective way of seeing the world has failed everyone. And now there seems to be a guided movement of all of culture back to the supernatural. Again, we're seeing this with a lot of people finding Christianity, but we're also finding a return to even just thinking about the world in a supernatural way, from the occult to witchcraft to whatever it is. And this is all part of it.
I like how they subtly invoke Azazel too, the entrails of a goat.
Right, the scapegoat thing. To announce that you are embarking on a course of psychoanalytic training today is tantamount in many quarters to admitting that you plan to treat your patients using astrology or by parsing the entrails of a goat. To say that you are undergoing psychoanalysis as a patient is to reveal that you are entrusting your mental health to a witch doctor.
This girl must be practicing witchcraft.
So if I were to tell you that a respected neuroscientist has undertaken to exhume Sigmund Freud, even in that language there, when you exhume somebody, what are you doing? You are unburying their corpse. This first paragraph is just filled with necromancy, re-enchantment.
Necro-capitalism right here.
He is exhuming the corpse of Edmund Freud and make a case for both his theory of mind and his psychoanalytic method as the best, indeed the only, approach that can cure emotional disorders. You would likely rate that a quixotic project. Quixotic is a word that refers to Don Quixote and the sort of world of imagination that that people can live in, often associated with like schizophrenia and stuff. You would likely rate that a quixotic project, and its author perhaps a candidate for serious therapy himself. Freud's cultural and scientific influence, which I just reviewed, crested some 70 years ago, and much of psychiatry's history since then has consisted of a reunification of the man, his concepts. Renunciation, thank you. That's important. Not a reunification.
Not a reunification.
A renunciation. Okay, for the past 70 years of psychiatry, chemical-based psychiatry, it's been a renunciation of the man, his concepts, and his therapeutic techniques, so comprehensive as to have an edge of savagery, even vengeance to it. He has been deemed a sexist, a misogynist, a bully, a narcissist, a homophobe, a pervert, an addict, an opportunist, a plagiarist, a fabulist, and a scientific fraud, as well as a disloyal friend and a credit-stealing protege. Not to mention a bungling, incompetent therapist, quote, a dogmatist who browbeat his patients and consistently failed to mark the crucial difference between their fantasies and his own. So sums up the flap copy on a collection of Freud-filleting essays by 18 psychiatrists, philosophers, historians, and others compiled in 1998 by Frederick Crews, a literary critic and one-time devout Freudian turned virulent critic. So
a heretic.
Heretic, thank you. Which this is, this is a perfect understanding, and they're going to explain a little bit more of what happened in the 70s when psychiatry, psychoanalysis, remember, Freud's concepts were extremely popular and even almost the only way to think of psychiatry during the early and mid 20th century, when the theosophists, the occultists, when spiritualism was very common and celebrated, so Freudian, the work of Freud and sort of the occult, mysterious understanding of the supernatural are contemporaries with one another until they weren't. And then we got to where we are today. If coroners were to pin an actual time of death on Freudianism, they might specify 1963. That year, the philosopher of science Karl Popper held up psychoanalytic theory as the archetypal instance of what he called pseudoscience. Even the fact that they use the word archetypal there is another re-enchantment word. Worse than mere bad science, psychoanalysis was in being untestable, simply not science, which we would agree. It was not science. It's much closer to spiritualism or occultism.
Yeah. Well, much like the pandemic was not science. A lot of what was
Exactly.
peddled, you know? It's
Based in large part on the highly speculative interpretation of imperfectly recalled dreams, of all things, psychoanalytic theory was impervious to real scientific inquiry. In presuming to explain everything, Popper pronounced, psychoanalysis explained nothing at all. So who today would dare attempt a rehabilitation of Freud, and why? To take the second question first, here's one reason. What has followed Freudianism has not been, by any reckoning, any better. By many reckonings, any better. In the 1970s, the mental health profession fled from such squishy psychological concepts as transference and countertransference, the death drive, the seduction theory, as well as more outlandish ones like male genitalia envy, castration anxiety, and the edible complex, right? They're listing the sort of perverse parts of Freudianism, and leaned instead into, quote, biological psychiatry, which had emerged from the drug discoveries of the 1950s and 60s. The drug discoveries being Big Pharma, right?
Big Pharma, but I think it's interesting that the article mentions 1963 as the peak of this, and or maybe the end. I'm sorry, the end of the Freudian era and into this new era, because isn't around that time when MK Ultra really kind of started to pick up steam and gain its traction? So so they're saying
what you're
down
noticing,
with fraud and
what you're
in with
noticing,
MK Ultra.
right? What you're noticing is the untold story of what the Atlantic is missing out. You can only read between these lines if you are hyper obsessed with re-enchantment like we are here.
Yes.
Because that timeline, just like you said, what they're saying is pharma in the 60s and 70s said, get all this crazy occultism and newfangled psychoanalysis out of here, okay? None of that means anything. Dreams are nothing. The supernatural is bunk. It's all about drugs. We can fix all your problems, make you sane by giving you drugs. So
pour the LSD into the water supply. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, and we'll continue.
Mess around and find out.
Let's see here. Let me do one thing real quick.
Oh, your eyes are going everywhere. They're googling.
They're flopping around.
They're flopping,
flopping around. Get here. Oh, I went too far. Excuse me.
Psychological notions.
Yeah,
took hold.
I did a bad thing.
As.
Hold on. Sorry, I gotta find it. I got so far off. I got so far off here. Shoot.
The trajectory.
Psychoanalysis. Who today would attempt rehabilitation? There it is. Which emerged from the drug discoveries of 1950s and 60s. Psychological notions took hold, such as the
physiological.
Thank you. Physiological notions.
Zoom in. Aren't you in VR?
I'm a little zoomed out. Let me zoom in here. That's exactly what I need.
Those eyes need,
Physiological notions took hold, such as the, quote, catecholamine hypothesis of affective disorders, which attributed anxiety and depression to deficits of the neurotransmitters norepinephrine and dopamine. 3 decades later, in the 1990s, the, quote, chemical imbalance theory of depression arrived, tying depression and other mood disorders to dysregulations of another neurotransmitter, serotonin. And the chemical imbalance theory of depression will ring for everybody because of all the attention that, horrible people doing horrible things in current events seem to always be on SSRIs, lithium,
The
because
shooters.
they're being treated for chemical imbalance theory of depression from the 90s.
Well, plus the topic of the topic of dopamine and serotonin becoming mainstream in the context of social media addiction and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, exactly. Psychoanalysts' highly subjective assessments gave way to ostensibly more objective measurements provided by neuroscientific instruments that can capture brain activity, such as EEGs, PET scans, fMRIs. Doctors turned to genetic testing to help identify various temperament types and emotional predispositions and relied on standardized questionnaires assessed for their validity in diagnosing mental illness. So we're seeing the sort of Enlightenment materialist values taking over psychiatry in the 70s.
Institutionalized.
Right.
Yeah.
In repudiating Freudianism and touting the field's proper medical grounding, science-based psychiatry confidently predicted that measurable success was soon to come. That's not what happened, The Atlantic says. Biological psychiatry, quote, overreached, overpromised, overdiagnosed, overmedicated, as the Harvard medical historian Ann Harrington put it in 2019, which raises the question of whether psychiatry has simply exchanged one form of witchcraft for another. In the words of The Atlantic, they are calling medical psychiatry a form of witchcraft. PHARMEKEIA. I mean, love it. The Atlantic's catching up, baby. Another reason why Canarians are so far ahead of their time. The champions of so-called anti-psychiatry and critical psychiatry, now emboldened by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and the MAHA movement, certainly think so. So they state the Harvard medical historian's opinion of everything being overreached, overpromised, overdiagnosed, overmedicated. They're recounting the history of how psychiatry doesn't work. And it's The Atlantic, so they're kind of going like, well, that's what MAGA people think. They think that there's overreach and everything. So do some leading figures in biological psychiatry. So even in this article, they are saying, okay, we get it. You've probably heard these thoughts from the MAHA movement, but there's also some leading figures in making the case that it's okay to agree with MAHA through the Atlantic readers. As the head of the National Institute of Mental Health from 2002 to 2015, Thomas Insel tried to root America's approach to mental health care more firmly in brain physiology and emerging understanding of genetics than in the nebulous concepts of Freudianism. But in 2017, when he looked back on the $20 billion he'd spent on the endeavor, his verdict was bleak. Quote, I don't think we moved the needle in reducing suicide, reducing hospitalizations, improving recovery for the tens of millions of people who have mental illness.
It took $20 billion to figure that out.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine just
Well, remember, this is $20 billion of the grift of siphoning American tax dollars to the big pharma companies.
Yeah, this is
that's
money
what
laundering.
The Atlantic
this is pharma, big pharma
saying,
money laundering.
Yeah, even the government officials say, okay, the grift to give taxpayer money to big pharma hasn't worked, okay? We can't deny it anymore, right? What biological psychiatry once promised seemed revolutionary. From the suffering patient's perspective, what it's delivered has been marginal. Still, reverting to the nostrums of a disgraced Victorian quack. Again, Re-Enchantment, nostrums, I think is derivative of Nostradamus. Disgraced Victorian quack seems a little like saying, this modern medical technique isn't working so well. So let's go back to using leeches. Well, as it happens, leeches have become an important part of the modern reconstructive surgeon's toolkit. for use in skin grafts after surgeries, among other things. Might Freudianism be psychiatry's leech, resurrected for the astonishing health benefit it contained all along? The
I love
Atlantic is in full re-enchantment mode, right?
I
They're
love
saying
comparing.
science failed. Let's go back to witchcraft. Let's go back to medieval nonsense.
Well, it's just funny how leeches, the blood sucking, latching on worm, which I guess it does work in some sense. Yeah, there's a place for that, but I don't know the logic of like, well, it didn't work, and just like leeches work now, let's go back to Freud. I mean, wow, this is some. I thought the Ukrainians talking about moon bases was a leap, but this is this is its own kind of leap. It's.
I mean, the fact that it's the Atlantic, and look, come on, the topic of mental health and, wokeism, the left, everybody's on SSRIs, like it's the best thing in the world, like this insistence that medical psychiatry, putting everybody on drugs, not only is like the right way to fix people, but it's like their human right to be on drugs. And it's like we're coming out of this phase that for the Atlantic and the whole left, which is the Atlantic people, diving so deeply into, okay, it's totally fine. We're going back to witchcraft. The drugs didn't work.
We've hit critical mass on the evidence over the years. And I mean, a lot of these things that the Atlantic are realizing here have been talking points of, RFK Jr., I guess, more recently. But I mean, for anybody who's really been studying this, they've been talking about this stuff for a long time. And it's hit critical mass culturally. But it's funny how instead of like maybe, hey, go to church, plug into a community, follow Jesus, it's like, we're going back to the occult, baby. We're going back to ancient alchemy to figure out our problems. It's just wild, man.
The Platonic ideal of the person who might dare to make this case would look a lot like Mark Solms. And they explain who Mark Solms is. He's a South African neuroscientist. And he's written a bunch of scientific journals and, a big time guy. Okay, that's Solms. I'm going to skip that paragraph. Solms is a practicing psychoanalyst as well. He treats neurological disorders, stroke, Parkinson's, dementia, in addition to psychiatric disorders, anxiety, depression, and psychosis. He's coined a term, neuropsychoanalysis. You need a new version, right? Neuropsychoanalysis. But what's such a big deal about what they're saying here is, you might say psychoanalysis might help you understand why your childhood makes you sad someday, right?
Yeah.
But what he's saying is, no, it's not just emotional disorders like anxiety and depression. He's treating stroke patients and Parkinson's and dementia patients with psychoanalysis, right? Which, you think a stroke and Parkinson's dementia are much more of a medical issue than an emotional issue, but he's now applying psychoanalysis to those medical issues to describe his clinical work because he buttresses traditional psychoanalytic techniques, free association, dream interpretation, among other methods of probing the unconscious. Now, again, just to make the point, free association, dream interpretation are Freudian concepts. What they also are occult practices. Free association is another name or another version of automatic writing, right? Automatic writing where a person channels a being and writes on a page and doesn't know what they're writing until it's over, right? And that message would have come from the other side. Dream interpretation, obviously,
it's I would say
supernatural
it's supernatural or spiritual because there's biblical instances of dream interpretation.
Correct.
For the glory of God.
I mean, more supernatural stuff, right? He's using supernatural ways of dealing with medical problems. among other methods of probing the unconscious. With the more recent findings of neuroscience, much of his research has involved trying to use modern technology to demonstrate the scientific underpinning of certain Freudian concepts and theories. For instance, Solms says that the pleasure-seeking drive, the source of Freud's pleasure principle, which is the basis for Edward Bernade's propaganda, is located in the brain networks that communicate via dopamine, and he has mapped the superego onto a region of the prefrontal cortex involved in emotional regulation. A neuroscientist who is also a practicing psychoanalyst is a rare bird, but Solms is rarer still, having spent the past 29 years completing a revised translation of the complete works of Freud. 24 volumes were published in 2024, and an additional 4 consisting of his writings on neuroscientists has been published on blah, blah, blah. So this goes on and on and on to actually say, oh, this Solms guy is almost like a monk or a priest who is
he's reviving the grimoires of Freud. Freud.
Exactly.
There's your Freudian slip right there.
Yeah,
no, but
exactly.
it's due out in 2028. So I would imagine that this type of document will assist in the cultural baking of
exactly
return to Freud.
He's translating the holy texts of Freudianism and even digging into unpublished, untranslated, like Dead Sea Scrolls, Gnostic Gospels versions of Freud. He's digging up the Gospel of Thomas and the Book of Enoch,
like the Book of Enoch
Freud.
of Freud. Yeah,
right. I mean, it's incredible. Making available previously overlooked writing has given Solms a chance to correct the misimpressions that Freud was homophobic. Now, here's where some more things come in, because they told you what people think of Freud: homophobic,
Right,
perverted, all this kind of stuff. Now, he, becoming the source of the gospel of Freud for the modern era, is saying, hey, Atlantic readers, good liberals, don't worry. He wasn't actually homophobic. In a letter to a woman who had asked him to cure her son's homosexuality, Freud writes that being gay, quote, is nothing to be ashamed of, no vice, no degradation. It cannot be classified as an illness. This last bit is ironic in the light of the American Psychiatric Association's official classification of homosexuality as a sociopathic personality disturbance or sexual deviation until 1973. Interesting, around the same time as MK Ultra, as Big Pharma kicking out Freud, happens to be the same time where they said, okay, yeah, homosexuality is not a disease or whatever. Freud goes on to note that some of the most accomplished figures in history, Plato, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, were gay, and ends by saying that although psychoanalysis can help her son become happier, less neurotic, and more productive, none of that will have anything to do with his sexual orientation. I suspect more than a few Freud detractors will be surprised to read this. Yeah.
Boom. Freud detractors.
He's being
Look at that.
exhumed.
He's defending the gays.
Necronomically being exhumed by this one guy who is translating the Holy Scriptures and telling the story of who Freud was specifically, so everybody today who is finding themselves in the Re-Enchantment, they won't be put off by all these reasons why they shouldn't like Freud, right? It's illiberal to like Freud until now. By Solmes's own estimation, there might be, quote, nobody alive who has spent more time with Freud than I have. Again, sounds like he's a necromancer.
He
Spent time with him. I've spoken with him.
Dude's been dead for a while. It's weird to say that.
But Solms is no doctrinaire acolyte, as guardians of the Freudian flame have tended to be. The Luciferian image,
the Promethean flame, modernized to Freudian flame. I love it. This is great.
Guardian of the Freudian flame have tended to be Ernest Jones, an influential early director of the International Psychoanalytical Association, believed his role was to create a secret committee, quote, like the paladins of Charlemagne, to protect Freudian theory against heresy.
So
They're talking about this age when these psychoanalysts carrying the Freudian flame were creating secret societies to guard the mysteries of Freud. That it's mystery school, paladin, Knights Templar, the whole thing. And this history has been going on our whole lives, right? This is over 100-year history of this secret society of Freudianism. And what the Atlantic is missing here is that, yes, big pharma made Freud, unpopular and cast him aside in the 70s, but the secret society of Freudianism has been at work the whole time. There would not be advertising without Freudianism. There would not be propaganda without Freudianism. There would not be MK Ultra without Freudianism. There would not be the symbolic breakdowns of the Minions movie or the Olympic halftime ceremony without Freudianism. It creates the world we're in. And until this very moment that the Atlantic is reporting this, it has been happening secretly, occultishly, if you will, without the public knowing. Solms, in contrast, embraces some major criticism of Freud, calling the death drive, for example, an egregious error. As for Freud's rather idiosyncratic theories about sex, Solms writes, I don't think there's any getting around the conclusion that Freud had this stuff seriously muddled. Okay, he's committed to remarketing Freud to be more palatable for today.
What is the death drive? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, so the death drive is this idea that secretly underlying in our subconscious that we have at different degrees this drive towards death. Like it's actually a desire that we have, which actually fits into some interesting Christian notions, right? The fact that we know that this is we know this is not our home. We are just pilgrims here. Our true eternal life is in heaven. And so, clinging on to this life is kind of outside, sort of the Christian understanding. But the death drive being the sort of upside down, understanding, the inverted the occult understanding of it is that we all have this drive towards death, which is why, for example, the main example is why people love smoking, right? We know smoking kills us. And even in Europe and stuff, they put pictures of like dying babies on the smoking box, right? And or lung cancer, like gross, horrific pictures on the cigarette box. And when they did that, they found out people smoked more. They would buy more cigarettes because of this death drive. There's this subconscious kind of drive to do the thing that will kill them, right?
The way it's described here is to lead organic life back into the inanimate state, which has sort of a Gnostic ring to it.
Exactly. It's very Gnostic. It's a supernatural concept at its core.
Okay, so Solms is saying that he was wrong about the death drive, but they don't expand on this. But
no, they're not going to expand on it. Solms wrote a whole book, and so I'm sure whatever. Who knows what he's doing there? But the point the Atlantic is making is like, hey, there's a lot of unpopular things about Freud, and Solms is here to tell you why you shouldn't be turned off by Freud, right?
Yeah.
Part of Solms's premise in this book is implicit and inarguable, despite the attempts to purge Freudianism from psychiatry, its tropes, terms, and concepts, the unconscious, the id, ego, and superego, sublimation, defense mechanisms, the obsession with sex, the importance of early childhood experiences have seeped so deeply into our cultural limbic system that they live on in the shared metaphors and terminology we use to discuss personality and our mental health. And they give some examples here, but the example we already know
Oh, of course.
is
Yes.
our entire symbology. The symbols that create our perception of culture and life around us is really what they're talking about here. But they give some examples like Frank is anal, Mary is repressed, Donald Trump is narcissist, et cetera, et cetera. Just these little pieces of
Well,
language.
they had to use. I'm surprised they sandwiched Donald Trump right next to Jill Biden.
Yeah.
Jill Biden was in denial.
Says here, when Freud died in 1939, W.H. Auden wrote that he had become, quote, a whole climate of opinion under whom we conduct our different lives. Meaning, when Freud died, his work was so ingrained in culture that he became a climate of opinion. Now, 1939, remember, this is right in the heyday of Edward Bernays and propaganda and advertising. So even they're recognizing in the Atlantic, and this guy, W.H. Auden, he's saying like, oh, we can't get away from Freud. He's like built into the way we see the world and how culture is set up. He's become a climate of opinion.
Corporatism, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what he's not mentioning is his nephew, who used his ideas, built culture around everybody. By 1939, he had been doing it for 40 years, right? Okay, there's so much more here. I think we kind of get the point, but I'm just gonna get a couple more things here. Where is it? There it is.
What about the unconscious?
The two explicit arguments Solms makes on Freud's behalf in The Only Cure are astonishingly ambitious and contentious. The first is that Freud deserves credit for neuroscientific prescience. A recent history of neuroscience states badly that Freud had nothing novel or insightful to say about how the brain worked. On the contrary, according to Solms, many prevailing theories about how the brain functions were first worked out by Freud. I'm going to skip that article. They kind of just go into a lot of details, or that paragraph. Or consider Freudianism's key concept, the unconscious. Freud argued that our personalities and behaviors are governed by a maelstrom of hidden drives and motivations, mostly unknown to our conscious selves. What we experience as our conscious life is in fact only a post hoc rationalization of things we are doing for other reasons, a devastating blow against not just human rationality, but even free will.
Did it take free will for them to write that? Or were they being led by some unconscious goal to write those sentences? There's a whole part about the SSRIs down here.
Yeah, that's actually what I was trying to jump to.
Yeah, so it starts off, Solms' position aligns him probably unintentionally with the public pronouncements that RFK Jr. has issued about SSRI antidepressants in his role as HHS secretary, which made the American Psychiatric Association convention in May jangly with tension. I like that, jangly with tension. Antidepressants are useless, Kennedy has said in various times. They are more addictive than heroin, result in brain damage, in air quotes, or in quotes, and could be partly responsible for school shootings. None of this is true, says the Atlantic. None of this is true, what the RFK Jr. said. But one reason demagoguing against medication has been easy is that the biological model of psychiatry, although filling the coffers of pharmaceutical companies, has delivered no panaceas, instead fueling cycles of disenchanted overreaction.
Disenchanted overreaction.
Disenchanted overreactions.
I love it. They're saying RFK Jr. says SSRIs are bad. This isn't true, but SSRIs are bad and they don't help anything and they're killing people. But this is disenchanted overreaction.
It's a disenchanted overreaction. All right, everybody settle down.
To give everybody SSRIs is disenchanted overreaction, which is exactly what we're talking about as we move into the re-enchantment of the sort of Freudian magic system that has been happening secretly.
Why would they? It's just funny how they contradict. in the effort to in the political context not to agree with RFK Jr., they just contradict themselves within a paragraph. I don't
Yeah,
even know if they
exactly.
realize they did that. You
No,
know, they're
well,
like all
that's
these
how the
things.
left is, right? That's
Yeah,
how the Atlantic is. There's no standard value system.
everything's
So
subjective. So yeah.
in the media here, in the way that they write, it is a key part of the liberal establishment communication that there's no enduring values. It is just what they say, and they constantly flip back and forth to create the confusion, to keep you off your toes, to make sure that you never settle yourself in a value system, because once you have a value system, they can't control you. So we've seen this in the mainstream media forever. They go back and forth and make opposite points, and the point is to be a good liberal, person is to follow whatever they tell you, every single thing they tell you, even if it contradicts the thing they just told you. It's how it's always
Oh,
been.
they go on to justify it more too. It's
Oh
very
yeah,
interesting.
no,
They
it's
juggle it like
incredible.
it's like
If
it's
it
a
wasn't so
clown show.
long, because we have one more thing I want to cover here, but
Yeah.
I'm going to go all the way down to the last paragraph.
Oh, we're skipping gonads and eels, everybody. Go
Oh,
read the
actually, I
article.
mean, the gonads and eels one is good. You can read the gonads and eels one if you want.
Let's see. Now I passed it. Before Freud became a psychiatrist, he himself was a neuroanatomist. Some of his early research was on the gonads of eels and the nervous systems of crayfish. But given the tools available to him in the 1890s, he kept bumping up against the limits of what the physical brain could reveal about the functioning of the mind. Frustrated and in need of money, he put aside the microscope, opened a private practice, and began focusing instead on clinical observation of patients and of his own mind, studying consciousness and the unconscious brain that lay beneath it. From the inside was how Freud constructed psychoanalytic theory. He sometimes expressed embarrassment at this approach. Quote, "It still strikes me, myself, as strange that this case histories I write should read like short stories and that, as one might say, they lack the serious stamp of science." He
Yeah, so they're
reflected in his
saying,
foundational studies on hysteria.
so he's saying,
Yeah.
hey, we get it. He didn't have the tools to really prove everything.
Well, maybe that's part of the
Hey, he even wanted to, right?
Right.
He's trying to build this case that Freud, hey, actually a good liberal institutionalist, he actually wanted the hard science, but he couldn't because it was a long time ago. And so
Well,
that's what he
that's
did.
why we need to bring back Freudianism, because now we do have the technology. So maybe
Which
if we
is
approach,
exactly what they say.
yeah,
Like you say, was it? Yeah, Freud never abandoned his quest to link physiology and psychology. Quote, "We must recollect that all our provisional ideas in psychology will presumably someday be based on an organic substructure," he wrote in 1914. In 1938, not long before his death, Freud was still at it. Quote, "The future may teach us to exercise a direct influence by means of particular chemical substances on amounts of energy and their distribution in the mental apparatus." Solms has picked up the baton, but he is adamant that we have not reached the future that Freud was forecasting. The future that Freud was forecasting is when his supernatural work could match up with
right.
the scientific work.
I don't know. I think he'd be pretty happy with the way things have
Well,
gone.
and that's what Solms is
esoterically.
saying is, hey, we're
Yeah.
not there yet. But now that we have the scientific ability, now we can reintroduce Freud and marry the supernatural with the physiological. Rather, his view is that we need to go back to Freud's true aim, to treat the soul not by ministering to the brain, as modern biological psychiatry does, but, quote, by accepting that the soul, construed as the experiencing, active, living I, is part of nature. Psychiatry needs to move into the re-enchantment, where it's not about the brain, it's about the soul. And he has company, even among clinicians who came of age during the rise of biological psychiatry. Patients with psychosis are, quote, too fascinating and complex to be reduced to the blockade of dopamine receptors, the psychiatrist Poseidon goes on. Let me jump down to the very last paragraph here.
Okay.
It says, but I was struck by two things Solms writes in different places earlier in the book. One is that the aim of psychotherapy at its core is simply, quote, to help our patients find better ways of meeting their emotional needs. Whatever you think of the whole complicated Freudian edifice, who could take issue with that? The other is, quote, psychoanalysis is a cure wrought by loving your neighbor as yourself. Solms has set out to complete the Freudian project by giving it a neuroscientific basis, but maybe the more important accomplishment is to have restored to psychiatry its humanity. So even in this entire re-enchantment, going back to the supernatural roots of Freudianism, he, in his book, tries to connect this with the biblical New Testament command of Jesus that psychoanalysis, all this crazy stuff, is a cure wrought by loving your neighbor as yourself. So Christians, don't be freaked out by Freud. Don't be freaked out by all that weird occult supernatural stuff. No, no, no. Jesus even said it. This is just another way to love your neighbor as yourself.
Wow.
Crazy. Insane, right? I mean,
it brings to mind a couple different things here. You have the strong delusion, of course, that gets sent, the God sends. That type of thinking makes a lot of sense in the context of 2 Thessalonians 2, in the context of these people thinking that they're doing what's good, and even citing biblical references to it. But also, Revelation 18 comes to mind, where, of course, at the end, verse 23, it's about the merchants. We talk about this all the time. This is kind of like a go-to passage for us. But this is the destruction of Mystery Babylon, and as part of that, the merchants, the great ones of the earth, they're judged because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery, and we've attributed that sorcery to Big Pharma, and as a means of like a contemporary way to understand in this Big Pharma era of like, oh yeah, sorcery can be related to drugs in the Big Pharma context. But as we've moved away from that and we're moving into the re-enchantment, it's just regular sorcery. It's not even like an analogy of sorcery. It's just straight sorcery that they're peddling here in this the vehicle of Freud being the Trojan horse for it all. It's very interesting. I think it's even more contextually relevant than when we first thought, when we were like, oh yeah, Big Pharma can be understood as sorcery. Well, no, it's literal sorcery, and it's being presented as the missing piece of, I don't know, psychology or whatever, psychoanalysis and mental health, all those different things. I'm expecting the what do we call it? I guess influencers, or like the
everything.
Yeah, I mean everything. I know it's everything, but it's there's a particular kind of branding of, because psychoanalysis became somewhat popular in like the entrepreneurial. I don't know what to really label
kind
it.
of as a pseudoscience, though.
Right. Is
in
like
the self-help. There's some
self-help, like the Tim Ferriss,
kind of
that kind of brand, individualized, whatever, sort of the anti-establishment sciences or whatever. So now it's just reestablishing itself.
It's the establishment. Freudianism, Freudian supernaturalism is now back in the establishment. And even the Atlantic by itself calls both PHARMEKEIA, witchcraft, and also is calling Freudianism witchcraft. And we got to move back.
We got to move from one kind of witchcraft to the original kind of witchcraft.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, guys. We got to restore the witchcraft, okay?
Now, real quick. The very same day, the very same morning that this article comes out, I also run into this article.
Women rule!
It's from GQ, right? And I only bring this in to show one example of the kind of effect that this reinvigoration of Freudianism, supernaturalism in the context of mental health, right? In the whole mental health industry and the whole culture of mental health and all this kind of stuff, right? We're sitting here going, wow, this will be interesting to see how this affects cultural re-enchantment, right? The very same morning, we get this article as if the answer was provided to us the very same moment the question was asked. And it comes from GQ, and which is weird, kind of a cultural outlet, of course, for men.
Yeah.
And the headline is, I told my therapist I thought she was hot. It brought our relationship to a new level. So it's a little bit posed as kind of this almost penthouse, like, I couldn't believe it happened to me, right? I told my therapist she was hot. It brought our relationship to a new level. I'd been working with a psychotherapist, a Freudian psychotherapist. I'd been working with a psychotherapist for nearly a year before I realized I was attracted to her. The shift happened about 10 months after we began our weekly sessions. Prior to that, I only knew her for a face on Zoom. A couple of inches wide on my iPhone, a pretty face, sure, but the experience was otherwise disembodied. Then she moved her practice closer to my neighborhood, an acceptable commuting distance in LA, and we started to hold our meetings in person. I remember the first day looking around the waiting room, a pile of Psychology Today magazines on a table, feeling it was all so clinical, even banal. 60 minutes later, it was not banal. Seeing her in person, feeling her energy in the room, she was exactly my type. I saw a friend that week and said something like, quote, I found out my therapist is hot. Quote, oh, nuts, he said. Quote, you need to stop seeing her immediately. I knew enough to sense I'd stepped into a trope. Patients feeling attracted to their therapists are as old as the talking cure itself. In 1895, Sigmund Freud described the concept of transference in his book Studies on Hysteria. Simply put, the term refers to a patient transferring things onto a doctor figure from other places. Rage from family relationships, erotic attraction from past romances, idealization, a desire for protection, even envy. Today, in the big tent that is psychotherapy, the concept remains a central idea in psychoanalysis. The practice of Freud and his descendants, Edward Bernays, other schools of thought don't consider it a core concept, if they recognize it at all. Then he gives a couple of examples just in popular culture where, you know, thinking your therapist is hot is like a bad thing, right? He's just making the point that culture says if you're attracted to your therapist, you need to get a new therapist, is what he's making an example. Until a couple of years ago, I saw those plots as amusing fictions. And before I found my current therapist, I didn't buy into psychotherapy much at all. He was disenchanted, Guns. I saw someone in my 20s to address panic attacks, but stopped after a couple sessions. I felt I couldn't trust her. Years later, struggling in my marriage, I tried BetterHelp. Again, another lovely example of modern mental health culture.
You can't listen to like a popular podcast without hearing a BetterHelp ad on there.
It's truly saturated.
Yeah,
I tried BetterHelp, an app that pairs you with counselors online. That led, remember, these are counselors that are not psychoanalysts. These are just therapists, regular talk therapists. That led to 3 sessions with a woman in a Mountain West whose style of therapy was recommending TED Talks, and a phone call with an elderly Southern gentleman who spent half an hour complaining about his no good wife and kids and didn't ask me a single question before I hung up. So making
sounds like a great app.
Making the case that like this online app culture of mental health is like useless, right?
It's useless. Yeah.
At the same time, I knew something was wrong, even if I didn't know what it was. In the spring of 2023, I asked around and got some recommendations. During our preliminary phone call, I told my therapist I felt our work should be limited, results focused. She patiently explained that's not exactly how she worked. Today, 3+ years later, it's become one of the most profound, intimate relationships of my life. Now, the point he's going to be making here is that having a profound, intimate relationship with your psychoanalyst is actually part of it. That is Freudianism. Freud, in his work, he talked about how he would become their father, he would become their lover, he would become the object of their obsession, really. Whatever was affecting the patient would transfer onto Freud. He would become like the most important person in their life. And then there's a process after that. But this article is, making the distinction between like the banal, synthetic, disenchanted mental health culture of today with this different, deeper supernatural thing of Freudianism. It took a while to get there, though, and I spent a while feeling confused and embarrassed, especially after the attraction bloomed. I worried she'd detect my feelings. I wonder if I should stop seeing her. If I confessed, would that ruin the whole thing? Also, what do you call a crush when the person you're pining after knows seemingly everything about you, and you, the crusher, know nothing at all about them? Then one day it suddenly came out. I was sitting on her couch and heard myself confess I found her attractive. I told her I'd fantasized about her, searched for photographs of her online. My therapist doesn't have a website or exist on social media, and I was nearly nauseous saying it all. To her credit, she seemed unfazed, noting it wasn't unusual for the process, though perhaps a little early in the course of things. And why did I think that was? I went home feeling like a flasher on the subway. I'd later read something Freud writes about smut in his books, Jokes and Their Relations to the Unconscious, about a wannabe seducer taking pleasure in saying something obscene, and I felt somewhat seen in a gross way.
Hey, that's what a lot of comedy was based off of, you know?
That's right. But transference, as a notion, is about much more than amorous feelings. Based on my research and some interviews with experts, it takes all kind of forms, and they happen all day. Between you and the nosy cashier at the grocery store, you and the coworker who reminds you of your dad. In a clinical setting, it's perhaps more complicated. Lots of stuff bubbles up from the sludge. Inhibitions and prohibitions, terrors and fantasies. In my case, naming the attraction led to the discovery that I'd been trying to impress her, trying to get her to like me back, simultaneously deeply scared she would drop me if I wasn't sufficiently interesting, and figuring out the why of that all. Where it came from, where else it appeared in my daily life, became both gut-wrenching and fascinating to explore. And that was just the start. We're now 3+ years in. The sessions remain revelatory, and though an erotic draw lingers, she's still attractive. There's so much more to work with now. Most weeks, there's a tension in the air that feels collaborative, full of inside jokes, loaded words, motifs from dreams of mine and we analyzed years ago, a playful back and forth, even if occasionally I wind up in tears, as we've slowly built a taxonomy for my psyche. Also, the transference seems to mutate, always changing. Simply discussing this article, I pitched it to my editor during a 3-week break from therapy while my therapist was away, has led to a lot of discussion. Or the moment when, a couple of months ago, I learned she had a young daughter. The news simultaneously humanized her, desexualized her, and also resexualized her in a new manner. And I experienced an easy joy I hadn't felt before in the room, noticing the happiness on her face while she described her kid. Should a person recruit a therapist based on physical attraction? It sounds idiotic, like picking a car mechanic the same way. On the condition of anonymity, I posed the question, and then he goes in and says, some people think you should do this, some people think you shouldn't do this, and goes into some other examples of some writers of books who kind of explain this a little bit more. What have I learned from my therapy? Outside of the room, I'm more attuned to how I feel, even when the feelings are unclear, and I'm able to detach their hold faster. I've gotten better at poking holes in my facades. I'm less deluded about myself, less afraid. Basically, how I feel and act are more closely affiliated. Still, each week is largely the same. I show up for our appointments. The room is full of light and slightly cold. The couch is here. Her chair is there. Occasionally, her hair is shorter, or she's bought new shoes. We say hello before I sit down. Then I close my eyes a moment, open them, and we start. I don't pretend to be anybody else. I'm honest and embarrassed. I'm grandiose and depressed. I'm guilty. I'm silly. I'm confused. Then, 50 minutes later, she tells me time is up, and we say, see you next week before I go.
I'm
There's
sorry.
another reality here where I kept my attraction secret, let it fester into a distraction. Instead, by acknowledging the transference and exploring its different forms, it became a means of communication or part of a larger one. In the ongoing engagement with what that means, including all the discomfort, I find peace. So we have on the same day of Freudianism now exhumed from his grave to take over mental health. This example, this story of this guy being like, yeah, I went into psychotherapy and it was weird and it was kind of occulty and you know, I I see he basically describes being hypnotized into admitting that he's got the hots for his therapist, right? He talks
Well,
about how he couldn't believe it as he was saying it. Like he didn't
yeah.
even know he was saying it, but this process of transference was happening basically without his consent, and
I,
how
I,
that was the secret to solve all his problems, and now he's found peace.
that's the vibe I got too as you read the rest of it there, and he was kind of rambling on there. It seemed like he was hypnotized to remain a really loyal client to
Yeah.
this lady who's making probably a fortune off this guy.
Yeah.
Who just keeps coming back, you know,
Yeah.
and more therapy and more therapy, and you know, playing on some fantasy or some hope of his or something. I don't know that he's getting any better. He perceives this peace, but if he truly has some kind of peace, he'd be done with the therapy, right? Or has it become a dependency thing?
Well, then that's kind of the question, you know. That's kind of the question because the Atlantic article, the guy's talking about how, oh no, you know, drugs don't cure people. Psychoanalysis actually cures them,
Yeah.
right? It
If he cured
actually
them, he'd be
cures
done
them.
going.
And so his point was, oh, psychoanalysis can actually cure people, and so they don't have to stay on drugs, they don't have to stay in treatment. Freud can set people free from this endless cycle of mental health attachment or prison, you know, the chains of the mental health industry. And then this guy comes out the same day with his testimony. He's really giving a testimony of like almost falling victim to the hypnotic process of the subconscious and stuff like this to bind himself to his hot therapist forever.
Yeah, as you were reading too, I did look up a couple things because it occurred to me that what we're probably seeing is a packaging of psychoanalysis in applications and specifically AI. And
Yeah, oh
certainly
yeah.
we found it. I mean, it's not surprising whatsoever, but the National Institute of Health had an article a year ago, 2025, April, Artificial Intelligence and Psychoanalysis. Is it time for psychoanalyst.ai? And it's this big old long thing. There's another similar paper, or I guess article from Frontiers, Frontiers in Psychology, I believe, which is another
Oh, it's
outlet.
been noted in articles and studies that ChatGPT, part of the reason that ChatGPT causes psychosis, AI psychosis, is caused by people experiencing transference
Right.
with ChatGPT. Because ChatGPT is naturally, because psychoanalysis, and this is the lie of the Atlantic, it's the lie of the whole thing. They want you to think that Freudianism has been absent from culture for 70 years.
Right.
That's what they want you to think, that Freudianism disappeared for 70 years and now we're bringing it back. But it just went invisible for those 70 years. It came out of the mainstream knowledge, went underground, affects everything, affects advertisement, propaganda, the whole thing is sort of the concepts of psychoanalysis has built our culture around us. And so the Atlantic trying to convince us that Freudianism's psychoanalysis has been gone, when in reality, we're swimming in a world of Freud's theories being purposefully exacted on us. It's not that his supernatural theories are inherent and, are part of the natural world. It's that those in the secret Freudian societies, the paladins of Freud, have been building our society, our perceptions, our social media, our AI, AI especially is programmed on Freudian concepts because all the media that it's been sucking in and training on is psychoanalysis, is Freudianism. And so, AI psychosis is an exact representation of secret Freudian concepts being exacted on unsuspecting people, experiencing transference with the AI and going nuts, right? That's that's the thing. And now in this age of re-enchantment, we move into a new phase where they're bringing the Freudianism back to the top, the visible layer, right? Of mental health.
Yeah, because it seems like this person writing the GQ article, I mean, it's akin to the AI, being stuck to the AI and going back to it constantly, and even suggesting that it's improving his mental health. It's very it's exactly the same thing as you put it. Yeah. So anyway,
and the point, I know this was like a long thing on Freudianism, right? I know this was like a full show on this going on, but it might be the most important re-enchantment thing that we have experienced so far, right? Because, why would we spend so much time on this? Because as we are trying to analyze, adjust our perspective of the world, stay focused on Christ, stay in the world but not of the world, being educated and aware and able to spot the Freudianism around us everywhere it exists is going to be an absolutely essential skill for everybody here, to, making it through all of this with a level head and a focus on where our focus should be, which is on our eternity,
Amen.
Amen.
I think
that's it.
About time to wrap things.
I think that's it. Let's go ahead and get out of here. Thank you to all of our producers who make this happen. I encourage anybody out there, if the Lord's blessing you and things are, whether with this show or it's, I don't know, in the ideas, or if it feeds your spirit or whatever it is, I encourage you to produce the show with your time, your talent, your treasure, whatever that means for you. Appreciate it. But I do want to give a shout out to a couple of producers who help us with their time. Big shout out to the Canary Cry tech team, of course. Thank you, tech team. And of course, thank you to our timestamper.
Timestamp. It's hard work. Timestamp.
Jade Bouncerson doing the Lord's work.
Thank you very much, Jade Bouncerson. Thank you to Jam for heading up the Telegram channel. Thank you to Adam42 for the Discord channel. Thank you, everybody, over at canarycry.community. Join in on those communities, folks. You can go to canarycry.party. Get connected, get chatting. Lots of great stuff happening there. Thank you to Joe for the feedback. Thank you to Sir Clank for clanking all around. And, of course, Sir Ike. Couldn't be doing almost anything without you. Appreciate you, buddy. And other than that, share the show, folks. Share the show with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with maybe someone who's interested in psychoanalysis, or maybe unaware that there is a secret hidden layer of the supernatural within society in many forms, but including these sort of dark, twisted theories of Freud controlling our behavior and perception at all times. We call it rattling cages, and all you got to do is walk right up to him, grab him by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that!
You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Guns, any last words?
Clubhouse tomorrow for you?
Clubhouse tomorrow. Let's do it.
All right. Go ahead and celebrate the 33rd president dropping the atomic bomb.
Wow. Big day.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Doc. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
But what if you're a grifter who needs to sell ads?
I'm gonna haunt you. I'm gonna haunt you. It reeks of an inside job.
The beginning of the rise of the Antichrist. Aleister Crowley, devil worshippers. Do not combat, you Nazi psychopaths.
It will kill.
He's a Satanist from one of the Satanist churches here where they sacrifice babies.
They're body snatchers. I am having trouble doing a show.
That's on YouTube. That's on YouTube.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
For God alone, my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress, and I shall not be shaken. How long will all of you attack the man, batter him? Like a leaning wall, they only plan to thrust him down from his high position. They take pleasure in falsehood. They bless with their mouths, but in their heart they curse, 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 curse. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence. All hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress, and I shall not be shaken, be shaken, be shaken, be shaken, be shaken. Trusting him at all times. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for all of us. Those of low estate are but a breath. Those of high estate are a delusion. If they are weighed on the scales, they are altogether lighter than a vapor. Put no trust in extortion. Set no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, set not your heart on them, on them, on them, on them, on them. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence. All hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress, and I shall not be shaken, be shaken, be shaken, be shaken, be shaken. God has spoken once, but I hear this in repetition, that power belongs to God, and to you, Lord, belongs steadfast love. For you will repay men according to their works, 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 works. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence. All hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress, and I shall not be shaken, be shaken, be shaken, be shaken, be shaken, be shaken, be shaken.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.